First of all, I'd like to welcome y'all to Hit the Deck. It's DJ Marvelous HTD Entertainment, HTD Media. I got one of my best friends in the building, man. You have no idea how overjoyed I am to have this dude here, man. And we're going to talk about some things about our journey, things along the way, and how we got to where we at right here in 2023. All that old. I'm not gonna have any new friends and stuff like that. Nah, man. I met this dude when I was almost late 20s, actually, and we like best of friends now, man. You know what I'm saying? So
we family.
Yeah, we family, man.
Brother from another mother.
Yes, indeed, man.
All day.
Yes, indeed, man. So, hey, man, welcome. I'm glad you're here, man. And like I said, man, I'm super overjoyed that you took time to come down the road to holler at me, man.
I'm grateful to be here. I'm glad you invited me to the hot Hit the Deck set so I can rock out. I don't got a Run HTD shirt yet that I could be able to rock. I mean, not because you didn't give me one. I just ain't come prepared with that, but I'm going to rock out still.
Okay, all right. I was getting ready to say, because I was like, man, don't start telling no lies.
Nah, I ain't going to do that, bro. We're going to keep it all, as they say, a buck.
Yeah, so, all right, look, man, so tell the people where you from, where you grew up. Where was you born, and then where you spent your teenage years, and then moving into adulthood?
Okay, so I was born in South Carolina.
Okay,
most people don't want to believe that because my accent gives me away. But I was born in South Carolina, but I grew up in New Jersey, and I grew up for, I would say, my developmental years that really influenced me significantly in East Orange, which is in North Jersey, and then. And right around the high school years, my family moved down to South Jersey to a place called Willingboro. And Willingboro I thought it was down south. I thought because they had farms.
Everybody.
And the only place I ever had thought that.
Every northerner say that.
Yeah. The only place before then that I've ever seen farms was down south.
Yeah.
And so when we go here and I see cows, real cows out, and you can smell them, I'm saying this is not New Jersey.
Right.
I didn't know why they called it a Garden State, but all I knew that this wasn't really Jersey that I knew, because up in East Orange, I had a front yard, a little yard, but it was all dirt. It was a little fence and concrete, so it was different from me. But I was doing the East Orange things and doing things that were not going to be for my well-being.
That's what I was going to ask you, man. So to get this clear, why did y'all move out of East Orange to go down south?
I would say for my mother and my stepfather at that time, it was the progression of life. They was doing better. They was better financially, and the city East Orange was rough. East Orange has a lot of cliques, a lot of different associations with it. And so as they started to make it, to be able to live the dream, and then they would also, my mother would say often, because of me, and they knew that I had no chance to make it in East Orange, that if I was one of those, either if he make it to 18, he's gonna be in jail, but more than likely he won't make it there. They're gonna kill him before he turned 18.
You think it's because of your character, or was just the neighborhood was just wild like that?
I think it was a combination of the neighborhood being wild, and I always could connect with people. So those people that was out wilding, from the drug dealers that was out, big time, that was in the game doing thing, making real money. They were not just nickel and dime, not just the nickel bag dudes on the corner. I could go and talk with them, and they just said, man, I like you, you cool. And we just connect. And so I was on the scene, doing different things. And they had a certain level of care. They didn't want me to get involved with taking drugs, but they were like, hey, can you go run pick some money up?
Yeah.
And I said, okay, sure.
So let me ask you this, cuz. So did you have, I've never asked you this. So when you were growing up, right, what kind of student were you in the younger years?
So I would say when I was in East Orange, I was in Hard Knocks University.
Okay.
University at I would say University at Adversity. I think I had the gifting to be able to excel in school, but school didn't interest me as much as the streets and as much as everything else in society. So I didn't go to school. When I moved down to Willingboro, I will never forget, I think I had a .15 GPA.
Damn.
A .15. I passed one class. It was all JRTC class. They gave it to me because I would come there and I was fascinated by the subject matter and the material.
Yeah.
So I would listen to what was going on, just being fascinated to learn something different. All of the other
Army,
classes.
JRTC or?
It was the Air Force.
Air Force, okay.
Air Force. And all of the other classes, I just went to class to hang out. And sometimes I didn't go to the class. I'd go get me something to eat with me and the guys, or go hang out and do silly, dumb stuff, and be outside the window, throwing rocks at the window, disrupting the class. And the teacher would say something, and we tell the teacher, you don't really want us to come up there. Because if we come up there, you ain't going to like the results. And so all of that foolishness is where I was at. And then we moved to South Jersey, to Willingboro. And I share this oftentimes.
How old were you when you moved to South Jersey?
I was about 14.
This is
13 or 14.
That's a prime turning point years for a lot of young men, man. So
Yes.
yeah, I mean, it goes without saying, you know. But the '80s, 13, 14 years old, up north, wild place, wild times.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So anyway, my fault. You said you were
good.
you were gonna say something.
And so when you talk about turning points, so one of the things, and it's, I will say, one of the areas that it continues to be an area for me to grow, I don't do well with disrespect. Disrespect.
You don't say.
Yeah, that's not my thing. Some people, I got a lot of tolerance and a lot of patience for many things, and I can work my way through, but I don't do well with disrespect. And I'll never forget this. When we came to South Jersey, my mother went to take me to register. Again, I wasn't doing well in school, but this is just because I didn't choose to. And while I wasn't doing good in school academically, I was doing good in athletically. I shouldn't say in athletes, but in athletically, I was doing well. I could play every sport. And all the coaches wanted me on, let me play without grades, because they would just say, you know, he's a decent athlete, I would say about that time. But when we was going to register for school, Willingboro High School, black suburbs, you know, they got this high standard of people excelling, people going to Princeton and Harvard and Ivy League schools, and they got my opportunity to go and register for school. So when we arrived, I remember them saying to my mother, a certain guidance counselor, I don't say her name because I can't give her credit for who she is, but I know who she is. She said to my mother when we were going to register, and she says, you know what, I don't know if he going to make it. And she's like, what do you mean? She's like, I don't know if he gonna make it here. This is one of the best schools in the state, and I don't think he can graduate. Not just, and she says he may just struggle to even make it in ninth grade. And for me, that stood out with me because you came at my mother. My mother didn't have anything to do with the decisions that I was making. It's the way I was processing.
This dude's mother is like one of the most pleasant, soft-spoken people I've ever met. So, yeah, all right.
So she said that, and then that became my fire for me, being able to say, okay, you think I ain't going to make it? I can't even graduate from this school or graduate past that particular grade, yet alone graduate from the actual high school? Okay. And so that became that fire that I used, that you never going to disrespect my mother.
Much as we know each other, it's amazing that when we have these type of moments, the similarities in the story, because I probably never told you this. When I was in high school, I was, I'm the same kind of guy that you've always known,
yes.
Right? I've always been I've been an intellectual guy. I wasn't a great student.
Okay.
I had the same I had similar focus issues that you had, right?
Absolutely.
And when I was in the 11th grade, my guidance counselor said, you probably not going to graduate.
Wow.
It's funny, the similarities, man. Yeah. He said I wasn't going to graduate. And I was like, I ain't. You crazy, man. I might not make it to college because my grades were terrible. The only thing I excelled in, junior ROTC.
Beautiful.
We had a junior ROTC program that it started when I was in the 10th grade. And the old guard, man, listen to this. I don't know if I told you this. The old guard came to be they were like drill sergeants. They came down, they taught us DNC, basic Army stuff. Nice. And then over time, this dude named Staff Sergeant Smits, he was a tomb guard. He came and he used to be a tomb guard. He came and he would he kind of stayed down there. He would come down like 2 or 3 times a week.
Oh wow!
Like TDY, I guess, and would just sit and talk with us, man. Because that's the first time I had any type of grown man. Not the first time, but one of the few times it was very powerful, man.
Okay.
And he kind of helped us become men. You know,
Nice.
So it seems like to me, I don't want to jump the story, but it seems like to me, right? I never heard that about Willingboro's academic situation, but it seems like, I mean, what I know and what all my family who's from Jersey tell me, Willingboro has one of the greatest track teams in the history of track.
Absolutely.
Right? And I guess all of y'all were drawn. It seems like all of your friends that I know of yours, that when I come to visit Jersey, everybody's was either on the team or either really engulfed into the whole culture of track and field in the area.
So I definitely, so for me, what happened was coming out from North Jersey to South Jersey, Willingboro was an interesting place. It was a hybrid, I would say at best. They really didn't have an identity. Mm-hmm. So you had a lot of people coming from Philly, which was about 15, 20 minutes away. Mm-hmm. Then you had an influx of people coming from other places in South Jersey, maybe Camden. And then you had this movement when I was going there about from North Jersey. Yeah. And so difference in styles. I remember getting down to Willingboro and people was wearing them Kwame polka dot outfits and that little half afro thing. And I thought that was the craziest thing ever because, you know, up north we rocking, you wearing Caesars, Evens all around. you get a little part in your hair. They looking a little bit like, you know, you all right?
It's a
good dude. It was
a cultural difference, man.
It definitely was a difference.
I mean, look how close Virginia, Maryland, D.C. is, right?
Yes.
Everybody outside D.C. is a Bama to them. You know what I'm saying?
Without a doubt.
And
that's
then,
what they say.
And then we start developing those same ideologies.
Absolutely.
The Maryland people look at the Virginia people. Everybody look at the Virginia people like we backwoods country cornballs. And at the same time, as I grew, I realized, oh, actually, they're the ones that's kind of ignorant.
I agree.
You know, and really it's got nothing to do with anything other than a bunch of weird prejudices, I guess. But anyway, so you got the culture shock. You come down to Jersey.
So culture shock. And so what happens was I always had my strength at that particular time was demonstrated through athletics. Mm-hmm. So we got the best track team. I never heard of them in my life when I got down there. This wasn't something that I was into. And everybody talked about this is where you want to be. And, you know, they got an image. They walking around with these jackets. You know, girls is chasing after them. People seeing if they could wear their jacket during the school day. And,
they was bigger than, were they bigger than the football team?
Way bigger. Oh, the football team, you couldn't touch them. I mean, at that point in time, when I got down there, like you said, they were going for the national record for the most consecutive wins. And at that point in time, they were probably in the upper, when I first got down there, they were in the upper, close to 100 straight wins without taking a loss. They had not lost since Carl Lewis's sophomore year in high school. They had won all of their regular track meets during the season, the dual meets. And
so did Carl Lewis actually go to your same high school?
Same high school. He graduated and everything. The football stadium now is named after him. But he went there. Absolutely. He went there. His sister Carol went there. His brother was a phenomenal soccer player. He went there. The whole family.
Were they powerful before Carl Lewis and became Carl Lewis? Or
his mother and father was trailblazers. They were activists from the idea of they got involved with young people. Mm-hmm. And they started what they called the Willingboro Track Club. That's where he started with.
Okay.
And so they started this track club that became a super phenom, and the idea that they were developing, pulling talent from all throughout Willingboro, but then had other people from outside of Willingboro wanted to come and be on this team because they were putting and producing Olympians. They were producing these all-star athletes winning records.
So to get this, to be clear, this is the school team or is this
This is outside. This is a rec team.
Oh.
It's a recreational team that they ran basically in the summertime.
They only have track teams down there where we from.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right. I didn't know that. All right, cool.
Indeed.
So they were like AAU on steroids for
basically.
Track.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No pun intended. I don't mean that track people don't shoot me. I don't mean literally. Okay, all right. So you get into running and athletics.
I get into athletics. First, of course, was basketball. Mm-hmm. So I played basketball. That's the indoor season. And then when I got done playing basketball, what's my next sport? Mm-hmm. So the next sport was for me was, let me try this track. Since everybody said these country guys without this processing, these country dudes is fast. Mm-hmm. Like, they ain't that fast. They from down here chasing cows.
You had the same city boy.
Yes, indeed. I did. I was foolish. And went out there. It's like, you know, who won it?
Yeah.
And I realized I didn't really want it because it was no joke that these wasn't average dudes. These dudes was adapt, and some of them, like you said, had been groomed and grown through the Willingboro Track Club, and they've been running track and understood and had techniques along with natural talent that was far exceeding me coming out just thinking I can run fast as I can and that's going to work without any strategy, without any technique, without understanding the distance, the track and how it works and how it is shaped.
It's more of a science than just getting out there running.
A lot more of a science.
So you went to school with some, I really don't know the ages of these guys. I know a lot of the names, man, but can you talk to me about some of the people that were around your age range that end up being like, hey, let's be clear, man. That's some Olympic athletes that come from Willingboro,
without a
New
doubt.
Jersey. They ran
Without
track.
a doubt. So I would say my best friend, also one of my frat brothers, Lamar Smith. Lamar Smith, graduated with him. He won a gold medal in the 1996 Olympics in the 4x4. He won a gold medal. And
was he lightning fast back then too?
Lightning. He ran the 400 meters. So in high school, he ran 400 meters and the regular meet in 46 seconds. And I can't remember the exact time. If I had another good friend, he could quote and tell you the weather. But it was in 46 seconds.
Probably John Jay.
John Jay, exactly. John Jay would tell us all the hard statistics. But that's what he ran and set the record.
So Lamont was a so he obviously was the star of the team then.
He was one of. So by the time we got into our senior year,
now if you say he just one of the stars, that's crazy right there.
He was one of the stars because by senior year he was the standalone. When we were juniors, he was not the star. We had people that were more known. We had a brother by the name of Gil Winters ended up going to Duke University. He had some of the records in the javelin. He had records in the shot put. We had another brother, black guy. Mixed.
I don't know. Mixed. I don't know any black javelin.
Yeah, he mixed, but yes, awesome football player. Got full scholarship to Duke. We had one of the top athletes was a brother named Gerard Reynolds, who's also one of my frat brothers. Gerard Reynolds went to the University of Florida. That's the powerhouse. At that time, University of Florida is where speed. And you coming from up north, and they recruiting significantly because speed down in Georgia and Florida because they can run all year. University of Florida, full scholarship, ran 110 hurdles, ran 100 meters, the 200 meters, the 400 meters. He was a football player. I mean, he was everything.
And y'all had a school that was a good school, not just
academically
sports,
proficient. Yes,
academically sound school
absolutely,
a public school that was doing all of this.
Absolutely. I mean, the track team was so popular. I mean, people just think about your track team in high school. Maybe a track team in college. And when I say we had cuts, we still would put on as part of our intimidation. It would be nothing for us to show up at a track meet, and we may have 70 athletes. And saying who won it. We could put relay teams, 2 or 3 teams in an event.
So
and they coming in first, second, third, fourth, first, second, fourth.
It goes without saying. I think I already know how you're gonna answer this question, man. Did they all have that same kind? When I met you, I said, this dude is a confident dude right here. They all had that same swag and that same attitude as you.
I think it was different. I think some of them
it sounds to me that y'all was just going to y'all showing up to these schools like, man, we can blow y'all out.
So we had some phenomenal coaches. One of, like you said, the mentors. So they're so interesting. One of them, I definitely will say, one of the first real black male role models that I would liken to is Coach Ruck. Coach Ruck, Fred Rucker, was a role model to me. He invested, he saw talent in you, and he was unrelenting to making sure you develop that talent and you use it to the fullness. And so what they had was this type of swag that we would say nowadays that we show up. We got a certain way we execute. Mm-hmm. We execute that way all the time. And his mindset was practice is always going to be harder than any meet you ever in. So that when you show up at the meet, you like, this light work. Like, this, all I got to do is run 1 400 open 400, 4x4 relay. So I may be doing 2 400s, 1 200. You like, this light work. I'm celebrating. I'm giving this all because you train and you work so hard. And then they just had this idea of being confident, but a level of realizing don't allow yourself to be greater than the team from the idea of compromising the identity and strength of the team. So one of the intimidation tactics, I would call it, that we would do, we would pull up the track meets. Again, we may be 2 to 3 school buses deep of athletes. It's just a track team.
Just a team.
And I'm never forget the exact school, but one of them, when you pulled up to the parking lot, in order to get to the track meet, you had to go through you pull up in the parking lot, and the parking lot was higher. So you walk through the parking lot, and you walk down the stadium steps because the track was lower than the parking lot. And then you walk into the track. Well, we'll get in there. We get to a certain point along the journey, and the coach is like, all music off. If you got Walkman on, Sony Walkman, old school, let my tape rock till my tape pop. And you do that, and they say, cut it off. And then we get closer, then we get ready to pull up. As we started to pull into the parking lot, they were like, okay, everybody hoods up. So we had hoods. You pull your hood up, and you pull it tight. So they couldn't identify unless they knew your body shape, and they could identify some, but everybody couldn't. You pull it tight, and you zip it, you pull it tight, and then it's like, all right, it's game time. And so then the captains know. They get everybody, they do their inspection, go down, look, make sure everybody look neat, your stuff is ready, and you got the right image, your stuff is tucked, it's clean, and then it's, all right, off the bus. We get up and we line up. And what would happen is, when we line up, you was a soldier. Everybody was quiet. The only people that could talk was the captains.
Right.
And so you take that same scene, we get 70, 75 athletes, we there, and you hit a stadium, buzzing, people warming up track and everybody going. We hit the steps, single file line, like Malcolm X outside when he comes in the movie. When we look at the movie, he goes out and he does the point.
Yeah.
It's almost like that. We come single file line. So it's so many of us as we walking down the stadium steps, captains up front. They hit the track. We still got people coming down the steps. And then we go on the track. And, of course, we always would do 2 to 3 warm-up laps. And we take a whole corner, a curve of the track to warm up because we had that many athletes. So we just hit it, and we go and do our warm-up lap and go in our routine. We didn't care who was there. We coming, we going to do the same thing. And it was regardless of where we was at. We was consistent in that.
So it sounded like to me, right, I always find it fascinating. See, now, like when you can recruit players and all that, you know what I'm saying, for sports in high school, it doesn't really sound all that. It's challenging to win no matter what you do, but a public school, you get the talent that you got, but y'all had superior coaching, y'all had superior culture, and all of that stuff played into the whole mystique and professionalism and the strength of that program, man. And I think they should. There's no books about this thing.
It's not that I know of right now.
That's kind of unbelievable, man. Because look, man, I told you, my cousin is from Orange, Virginia, and she lives somewhere in Jersey.
Okay.
And I saw her one time after when I was in college. I said, "What do you know about Willingboro track team?" She said, "Whoo," because she was an athlete too.
Okay.
She ran track, and Tina, and she was like, "Oh yeah, they for real. They serious business." So your reputation is crazy.
I love the way you framed it as a culture. So this is how advanced this was. Like you said, when you talk about public school, we had coaches for every event. So we had sprint coaches, multiple sprint coaches for 100, 200, 400 meters. We had middle distance coaches, 800 meters to a mile. Long distance coaches. We had coaches for the pole vault, coaches for the long jump. We had strength training coaches that even to the point, so prior to the actual season for the track team to start, for the spring season, we had this thing called Camp Mulder, which is named after the head coach, where you went through 3 weeks of nothing but conditioning. We were doing plyometrics in the early 90s. We would have an actual strength coach where we went in there and they had workout routines based on what you worked and how you would do and work your circuits. Not only that, we had a routine where the Thursday night before every track meet, all the captains had dinner at a house, and we had pasta and protein because they needed to get in your system, and it took the way they understood and said 8 hours or 2 days before you perform. So you need to get a good night's sleep Thursday, not Friday night, in order to be at your best.
Right.
In order to get that, we're going to give you some carbohydrates and some proteins. And so they had a meal prescribed plan. They had a chef, cook that was a nutritionist, knew what he was doing. And that's the type of we're doing for high school.
How do you pay for this stuff at a high school, man? It's just part of the budget.
I don't know those kind of questions. I don't ask what I didn't know. I just show up, and they said, this is where we're supposed to be at, and this is what we did. I think that for some of it, knowing the coaches and having had a relationship with some of them were going in their pocket. They knew that it was essential for us to be successful, and it wasn't just because they were trying to protect their pride. They actually wanted to see young black men strive. They wanted to see them not just strive, but I would say actually thrive and go to the next level.
So were some of your, are your coaches still revered in your, especially that era? Are they still revered in the area? People still think, oh yeah, they were the real deal.
Absolutely.
Because at some point it had to fall off. It had to kind of level off at some point.
So they're actually absolutely revered. I would say that what happened when I graduated high school, the next year, the second or third meeting to the season, they lost for the first time.
That was my next question.
They did. So when we graduated, we were 134-0. When I graduated high school, they got to, I think, 136, and then they lost. And then they took 2 losses that season.
Yeah.
To a team that had been gunning for us for probably 5 or 6 years trying to beat us. And they came out later to find out that many of the athletes in that high school team was on steroids.
Oh.
And so, but it didn't change anything. You know, some people go back and say that's why they won, because they were on steroids. I mean, it was documented. They've been doing it through high school. And they won. And then I think the next season, then they start winning again. But it wasn't to the same consecutive length that we had that 134-0.
Okay. All right, so we could talk about track all night. Make sure you bring John J. Lamont, one of them dudes, back next time, man.
I call John J. up.
John J. will be running his mouth about he know everything about Willingboro, man.
Oh
man, it's amazing, man.
Story.
He need to take it serious, man, and start a nonprofit and be the historian for y'all town, man.
You could definitely do it.
For real. So anyway, so what happened? How do you get in the Army, man? What happened there?
All right, how'd I get into the Army?
Because this story, I know the story already, but
so I get into the Army because I'm graduating from high school. Again, that same guidance counselor that told my mother I never would graduate, she never talked to me about college. She never said anything about college. So what was happening was I was getting letters from colleges. I didn't know what they were because I never had anybody in my family go to college. So I'm looking at these letters, and they're inviting me, telling me, hey, you need to come for this visit. We got the weekend set up. It's this weekend.
Did your GPA come up a little bit?
My GPA, I graduated. My GPA came up a lot. So I graduated as an academic honor athlete. I received the honors from the governor for being a academic all-star and athletic. I won all state honors.
Yeah, I wasn't that guy.
Yeah, I wasn't that definitely. Guy. I was at 3 I think I got it right around 3.0 to 3.1. And
that's you doubled up from what you had, so that's a big deal.
I had a 0.15.
Oh, you had a point?
Not a 1.5.
I think you had a 1.5. Oh,
no,
yeah, 0.15.
0.15. I passed one class.
Yeah, you tripled it up there.
Yes. And so what happened was, got recognized, got citations from the governor, and then recognized for being this academic contribution, scholar athlete. So I was getting these letters coming in all the time, and I had a box, and I kept putting them in the box. Then I would go, and I went and asked this guidance counselor, what are these? She says, oh, that's nothing. Everybody gets those.
Damn.
And I said, oh, okay, I don't know. So I just keep getting them. I mean, people talking, and I see and I can read, and I see people talking about scholarships and it, but I think everybody gets them. I never took the ACTs. I never took the SATs. So I didn't even know what it required in order to go to college and know how essential those were to being able to be an athlete. And she never told me. And so I said, I got this listening and being part of the track team. I hear people talking about going to college. I hear people and see people going to scholarships to college. So I said, I want to go to college. Well, my mother was not financially built that way.
Yeah.
They were happy living in the black suburbs, and they was giving everything they had. They was just still working up north. So they getting up in old dark 30 in the morning, driving to North Jersey, working all day, driving back in the evening, doing that every single day.
The kids were safe though,
Yes,
man.
indeed. My mother would say if we didn't move to Willingboro, she don't know if some of the people I know, and when you talk with her, she said, you don't know if you would ever met him.
Yeah.
Because they was truly, they believed that, that 18 or dead or in jail was my future.
I mean, the numbers don't lie though, man.
I agree.
It's just the odds. So, okay.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I'm sorry, I got off track.
No, we did that. So didn't know what happened. I said I need to go to college. The Army said, hey, why don't you try the Army? So I went and took the ASVAB. I scored high on the ASVAB. They said you could do any job you want to in the Army because you got a high score. I think my GT was 124 or 126.
Yeah, at the top of the chain.
Yeah. And so they like, what do you want to do? They said, look, you ever watch G.I. Joe? I said, yeah, I like G.I. Joe. They says, we got a thing, it's called an Army Ranger. We give you an Army Airborne Ranger contract and this G.I. Bill, and you can go do like G.I. Joe, test weapons for the Army. That's all you do, run around, test weapons. I said, sign me up. Physical, in shape, and so that was my course. So went in the summer, program was running track. Then I had to report in July to basic training. Went into basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia. It was an 11 Bravo, light fighter, M60 gunner. And went there, started doing that. While I was in basic training, I was getting these letters from a place called USMAP, United States Military Academy Preparatory School.
Hold on, because that's a whole nother story. So did you excel in basic training though?
I did physically.
Yeah.
Because I could run. So most people had some size to me. And when I got there, I was skinny. I probably was about 167, 168 pounds, still 6'2". And the drill sergeant says, we're going to bulk you up, Worthy. Yeah. I'm like, okay. I think one of the things they were surprised by was a black guy could run. And I could do push-ups. So I could max the push-ups. Had some challenges with the sit-ups. I would catch cramps, but I could max the push-ups all day long in my sleep.
And not you could run, but not just they see a lot of sprinters.
Absolutely.
But they don't really see anybody that could do much more than that.
So I think at that time when the Army PT test or APFT to max the run out for our age group, when you coming in, it was 11:54. 11:54. 2 miles from 10:30 to 11 minutes. And so they would bulking me up. So what they would do, every time we would have a meal, I would go to, the drill sergeants would pull me in and says, bro, eat all this cake. Or they would put me on KP duty, and then they would come in while we were washing dishes and says, bro, you open that, let me see what much cake in there. Pull that whole tray out and eat it. And drill sergeants is crazy. I was in 11 Bravo. I was in Fort Benning, and then you're going to do what you do.
I don't know about you, man, but when I was in basic training, I was 135 pounds.
Yes.
I thought, because I didn't eat right when I grew up.
Yes.
I didn't eat a lot of vegetables. I ain't eat nothing, man. I was junk food. That's probably the reason why I was so skinny. And when I went to basic training and I started eating square meals, you know what I'm saying, and eating on time and working out heavy, I thought I was starving, man.
Yes.
So whenever I got a chance to eat, I got down.
Yeah, I did too.
So, but anyway.
I ate the whole sheet cake.
Yeah.
And so I came out of basic training, you said, about 205 pounds.
Yeah.
And
I gained like 25, 30 pounds.
Yes, indeed. And then, like you said, I excel. I could run, blow them out in the 2-mile run. Yeah. They knew it would be me and all white guys. Yeah. When we go out there run. They put us on the route. I'm coming back in with them. We're going to go get it. And that was what I did. Max the push-ups, get close to maxing the sit-ups. So I didn't have a challenge with that. Mm-hmm. And that time what happened in the old guard, so it's so interesting, came to basic training, was doing recruiting. Mm-hmm. And so at that time, they was trying to convince me about what this old guard was. I like, man, I don't even have no idea what you talking about, this old guard. The part that they got me on, they said, you're the official escort to the president of the United States. I like, the president. They like, the president. East Orange, Willingboro, and I'm going to escort the president. Right. And I says, oh, man, that's better than going to play in G.I. Joe with weapons. And they says, but you're going to have to give up this Airborne Ranger contract. Yeah. and you got to go through a security clearance. And if you don't get the clearance, then you can't be in the old guard.
Right.
I said, okay, I want to go. I'm going to give it all up because I want to escort the president. And that's what happened. I got to change. I came out of basic training in Fort Benning, Georgia, and ended up going to Fort Myer, Virginia.
Yeah.
And then while I was in Fort Myer, Virginia, in the old guard, again, wasn't a lot of color in the old guard.
Right.
And because of that, when I came, God had it set up that when I got to my unit and Delta Company, 3rd U.S. Infantry, got there, the platoon sergeant said, I'm going to put you in the color squad. Colors being the colors, carry the colors, the nation's colors, the Army flag, the state flag, because we don't have any color in the colors, which is the top. That's the top squad.
Right.
So everybody, some people spent 2, 3, 4, 5 years trying to get to the top squad. We came in, me and another brother named Wright.
Private?
I was a PFC. At that time. And so me and his brother named Wright from Southeast, from Anacostia, D.C., came into the unit, and we got both 2 black dudes put in the color squad. We think we were the only, in all of the companies in the old guard, we was the only ones at that time that had 2 black people in the color squad. And so that also means that whenever you have ceremonies, color squad is in the first squad. So you stand in the front row. You're the ones where everybody evaluating, everybody get to see. Yeah. And, you got to be sharp, in line, and on point. And so I had that opportunity. And while I was there, I kept getting these letters from this West Point Prep.
You can't skip the whole the old guard piece, man. So you are the color guard.
Yes, indeed.
What year about was this?
This was about...
Who was the president at the time?
This was it Clinton? 92. This 92 to...
So you seen these dudes.
So let me take it back. It was Clinton, because so what happened is my first major assignment, I did the inauguration of Bush.
Yeah.
So that's the president that's leaving.
Uh-huh.
So Clinton was getting inaugurated. First Bush 1 was getting inaugurated. Him and his prejudice dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the dog barked at all the black people. That's just what my reality is. People can say what they want. I was there because I was at the airport doing the present arms, and they come through, and the dog coming and barking at me. You go down a couple more and bark at Wright, then bark at anybody else. We the only 2 blacks there. That's where the dog barked at. And so we do that. And
so you seen Bush?
Yes,
young Bush and old Bush, and then Clinton up close and personal.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
And then so we did that, and while I was there, one time one of those letters came in from West Point Prep. My commander, Michael F. Beach, never forget his name, Captain Beach, and he says, "Hey, Worthy, I need to talk to you." I said, "What's going on, sir?" He says, "Right now," and at that time, what was interesting, I could max the PT test by then. I figured out what was going on with the sit-ups. It would give me cramps. I would need to stretch up after that before the run, but I learned how to max it. And the way our commander was, he wouldn't give you all the commander's points. Matter of fact, he said, "I'll give you no points if you couldn't max the PT test." So I was an E4 at that time, and he says, I was the only one that could max the PT test.
Yeah.
And he says, "You're the number 1 on the slate to go become an E5.
You said you're the only one that could max the PT?
That could max the PT test that was an E4.
Oh, okay, got it.
And so that time you got to go to the board. Commander says, nobody's getting commander's points if you can't max the PT test. Yeah. And I could do that in my sleep. So, I mean, I go hang out, do what I do, and run the streets and do everything else, come in. Let's go run. Let's go. Let's go max these push-ups.
Y'all didn't go out, hang out, party all night, and get back to the barracks at 5 o'clock and go do PT, did you?
Put the PT clothes in the car because you pulling up and we literally changing in the car because we got to run out. You smell like we went in the streets.
Yeah.
Down in Georgetown and all around Virginia. We did all that. I mean, and you got to realize, too, at that time, and it was a small number of black people. So there was probably, I can recall, 10 or 15 of us. We all hang with each other and we went out together or we knew we went to the same spots. We may get there at different times because we needed to look out for each other.
Right.
And
it was a dangerous period too, man.
And in this area, this DMV area, if you said you was an old guard, you was good.
Oh.
You're good. Women love that.
Oh, okay.
And so you was good. That was like an extra credential because you president. They knew that escort to the president.
Yeah.
You VIP. You on that post in Fort Myers.
Yeah.
And you got the uniform and all that, tomb guards, and it was just a very beneficial time. So back to the point of the story was, one of these letters came in, and Captain B says, "Hey, you got to open this letter." I was like, "Sir, that's nothing. I've been getting that since basic training." Like, what do you mean you've been getting that since basic training? So they've been sending me this letter about some West Point prep thing. I don't even know what that is. He's like, because they want you to put a packet and go. I said, "Sir, I ain't got time for that." He said, "Yes, you do."
Your guidance counselor let you down terribly, man. They trained you up terrible.
Horrible. She wasn't focused on me.
Yeah.
Because, again, one of the things about Willingboro, I realize is if you grew up in Willingboro, they are very possessive, and that culture is very inclusive of those. But when you consider to be an outsider, as I came from up north to there, I was an outsider. I wasn't one that was homegrown. So I didn't have the same level of recognition by some of them. And so even though I was doing good as an athlete, I was still, for many of them, the guy from East Orange. That's how they associated me and got it, understood. And so Captain Beach says, "You got to do this packet." He says, "I'm going to give you all my points." And he was a West Point graduate.
It's a different kind of officer, man.
Yes, indeed.
That's a different kind of, that's the kind of officer I aspire to be.
Yes.
And not a lot of officers, for the people that are listening who don't realize this, there's usually, and a lot of, too often, there's a line between the junior enlisted folks
Absolutely.
and the officers.
Yes.
And the officers like kind of is an elitist type of fraternity, and they don't talk to the young guys.
No, not at all.
This dude took his time out to say, "Look, I need you to fill this packet out."
Without a doubt. No,
Okay.
he didn't say I need you to. He said, "You're going to
You're
fill it
gonna
out by
do it."
this date,
Yeah.
and we're going to get this packet up, and we're going to make sure it gets submitted."
Definitely a different time, man.
Definitely different time. And this is a white guy.
Yeah.
White guy, Ranger tab, bunch of decorations, some high-speed units that he served with. And then as an outcome, I got selected and ended up leaving the old guard and went to West Point Prep. And then
So, again, for the people who don't know, West Point Prep, Fort Monmouth, New Jersey.
Fort Monmouth,
And
it
it's
is.
the preparatory school. It's sort of like junior college for the West Point,
Absolutely.
the United States Military Academy, West Point.
Yeah, so it's designed and structured so those that are coming out of high school that may have a deficiency academically, they go there to get some additional classes. Because all you do is take, I think, two English, a math class, and a language class every single day. That's all the classes you take.
Was it
consistently.
challenging, though?
It was high
Academically?
level. Academically, I mean,
Oh,
you have one of my English teacher or professor at that time was definitely, I think he graduated from Harvard, had a master's degree, and he had a doctoral degree maybe from Yale, and it was writing at a high level.
Yeah.
It's mathematics, and again, they are professors. They want you to call them professors if they don't have their doctorate degree. If they do, you're definitely going to call them doctor. And the idea was to close the academic gap for some of the high school students. Also, for some of the athletes who may not have been strong academically, to go there, get the year of prep, because when they're in it, you're enlisted in the military, and so they get some pay and some compensation. And then they also had a process where they had people that were on active duty. They had an age cutoff limit. You would go there to get strengthened in your academic so that you could go. You graduated from prep school, you automatically was appointed to West Point. So that was the benefit. If
See,
you
I didn't know
graduated,
that. I
it
didn't
was
realize
automatic. The way they had the system, when you apply on your own, you had to get I think it's the congressional endorsement, and you had to get the letter and submit that. But when you graduated from West Point Prep at that time, you automatically went to West Point.
I didn't know that, man, because I always wanted to go to West Point, right? But I knew that I did not have the packet to go there, right?
Absolutely.
So if I'd have went to prep school, I probably would have excelled, because once I finally got into the Army, I grew up a little bit. The real student came out of me.
Okay, nice.
You know, so it was easy. School was easy for me after once I learned how to be a student.
Okay.
You know, so I guess that's what that's what you can get from a place like West Point Prep, I guess.
You can. I think it's a system. But, for me, I'll just be totally honest. I still have a struggle with respect.
Yeah.
I was a black person, and you would go and make a visit. I was an athlete and doing my academic journey at the same time. And I remember going to do the visits. So I was playing at that time football, basketball, and track. and was good in all of them. Like I had about a 4.2, 4.3 40.
Oh, okay.
And I could play basketball, could jump out the gym, had I don't know what my vertical was, but I could, do dunks, all kind of 360s backwards and all kind of fun and fantastic things. So athletically was just excelling. Academically was getting stronger, was doing well academically. But
So
what would
this had no
happen?
bearing on you getting into West Point Prep though. All your sports stuff. That
They did consider that.
oh, okay.
They did consider that. And I think one of the parts that strengthened my packet. So right before I got to West Point, I apologize and don't want to seem as though my mind is scattered. At West Point, I applied to be in the Army's World Class Athlete program.
Okay.
I had endorsements, used the Willingboro name. They knew Willingboro and tried to be in what happens in the Army World Class Athlete program. You're in the Army, but you just train athletically to do your events. Go to Colorado.
Some of them jokers go to end up being in the Olympics, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They'd be in the Olympics. And so what happened is I made it to the final selection round and got the call from the coaches. And they said, have you ever had any operations? I had a knee operation when I was in high school. I had a condition called Osgood-Schlatter's. And what it is your knee around that area, because it growth spurts and some different factors, looks like it grows an extra bone. And they had to go and chisel it because it was causing the pain and the tendon was growing over it. So when I would run, it would lock up on me sometimes.
Oh,
And so I could be running, it just locked, and there's no bending it.
damn.
And so they chiseled it, they got it right. And so I was running my fastest times at that. I think when I graduated high school, I was running my fastest time, not in Lamont Smith time, but I ran, my PR was 48.4 in the 400. And
I don't know what they feeding y'all dudes up there, man.
and so, and I was growing, I was getting stronger. And I think I had a good chance and opportunity. And you can look at my 2-mile run times and different things I was involved and playing the company ball, would go drop, score 20, 30 points, could jump, and, do good athletically. But they decided, and I believe they called my coaches. My coaches told me that because I had the knee operation, they figured it was maybe too much of a risk, and they wasn't sure how much my body could take the training routine. So I wasn't selected. Ended up going to West Point. They were aware that they asked the questions as part of the interview process, and it was doing well. But what happened was you had 2 or 3 visits at West Point. And, of course, when I go up, they will connect you with the football team because you're going up there to be an athlete, or the basketball team, not really the track team, but football or basketball. And just some of the culture at West Point, because they're not used to black people being there, they would say some things. And then some of them were like, oh, I can't wait for you to get up here. I'm going to show you what the deal is, Worthy. You ain't worthy. I'm not worthy. And to me, that was disrespectful. And some of them had just come straight out of high school, was at West Point. You may be in your junior year or your senior. You talking slick. I got air assault wings. I went to air assault school in 101st. I've been in the old guard.
Real Army.
The real Army. I've been in the old guard and I've been in NTC as a light fighter, which is a light infantry soldier. I'm walking the mountains in National Training Center in California. Been to JRTC. And you talking about make-believe. And then you're going to teach me how to be a soldier. And I'm like, you can't even see me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? This ain't for me. That I'm not going to last if you keep talking slick to me, because I'm going to put my hands on you. Because you want it and I'm going to give it to you. And so, again, it's just one of my areas that I have to grow. And, again, God just being who God is, there was a captain in my company. I was an Alpha company. He was at West Point Prep at USMAPS. Captain Jackson. Captain Jackson was an Alpha, and he went to Jackson State. He graduated from there. So while I was there, I think he could pick up some of the things that were occurring. We had a lieutenant that graduated from West Point, played basketball. He was an assistant coach on the football team. He was sharing and says, look, Worthy, you need to think about some things, because I know the story of athletes that go through, and they'll make it all the way to their senior year, and they'll use them athletically. And then what will happen is they will give them on an honor violation, disenroll them. And when you disenroll in West Point, they were not giving you your credits. You go to another college, you starting all over from day one, because you've been paid for free. Because, that is paid with taxpayer dollars in that element. And so you got to be mindful of all of that. And I said, okay. And so Captain Jackson says, look, I want you to go to the Career Center on post at Fort Monmouth. And I want you to go there, go see this person. Went to that person. They talked to me about Green to Gold. Green to Gold is a program that allows you to go from enlisted to an officer, but you go through the ROTC program at a historically black college and university. If you needed to go for 4 years, you had to go to historically black college and university. I had zero college, didn't take any courses, correspondence courses, anything. I had other things to do with my life, but do that. And so I applied for the Green to Gold program.
So none of those
I was not supposed to.
None of those classes at prep school transfer?
No.
Really?
You were not allowed. Matter of fact, I was not even supposed to go to the education center to go and apply for the program. Captain Jackson sent me there. And he just wanted me to have some options because he said, I know how this works. Mm-hmm. And what ended up happening, they found out. I went and took it because I got selected. And I didn't know any better. Instead of going to Captain Jackson first, I went to somebody else and says, hey, I got this scholarship. What does this mean? They're like, let me see. They're like, how did you get a Green to Gold scholarship? I was like, oh, I went to the Career Education Center and I applied for it. I didn't say anything about Captain Jackson.
That's for active duty soldiers, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, you know your commitment here when you come to West Point Prep is to go to West Point. You're not supposed to be looking at other options. And you're supposed to be focused and committed to that. And they're like, this not going to work. So long story short, I was disenrolled out of West Point Prep because they said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to the school. I'm going to this black school. And I had picked at that time Norfolk State. I never visited the school. I had a friend that went to Norfolk State that graduated, lived on my block in Willingboro, graduated, was at Norfolk State. He said, yo, you got to come here. It's close to the beach. I said, I'm there. Virginia. It's warm. And when I said I was going, they said, okay, you can't be in here. And this went through that whole exercise, disenrolled from West Point Prep, separated from the military, from the idea of going to the Green to Gold, and went to Norfolk State on a Green to Gold 4-year scholarship.
So getting down to Norfolk State, right, was that another culture shock for you right off the top?
I don't know if it was a culture shock as much. I think for me, I'd never been in the college scene. I didn't do a lot of that in high school, as some people may visit. So it was inviting to me.
So let me ask you this. One thing I don't think we ever discussed, but so you start as in ROTC, they have, they have different levels, right? So you start off day one, you're an active duty, what we call it? You're a prior service cadet,
yes,
right? Which means you're in the same class, I assume, as the kid that was fresh out of high school the year before. So you're in the class, you know not everything, but compared to them, you know everything about the Army.
Without a doubt.
You know what I'm saying? You know as much as some of those teachers that's teaching the class.
And that's for me, I had
in some ways,
some phenomenal leaders. So from the overtraining and I would say pledging process that I went through a basic training to being in the old guard and just the tactical, having these Ranger tab, West Pointers, people that excelled in their career, been to Desert Storm and back and just committed and being technically proficient and going to these different training centers. I had a solid foundation of being understanding what they want, because in ROTC they're teaching you infantry tactics. And they're teaching you light fighter infantry tactics. So how to go out and be a soldier on foot, how to do squad leader tactics, how to be a squad leader, team leader. I did all of those different functions. It wasn't a full permanent squad leader, but squad leader died, go down because they couldn't make it. I served in that capacity in my unit. So I knew how to do that in the real world and been in the NTC and different events that excel. So for me, this was easy. This is easy A.
How you think I felt? I had been in the Army for 8 years.
Absolutely.
I had done it all.
Yeah, you E6P.
Then I go to the...
Made the E7, let's get to Norfolk State. I remember that.
I get down to the school, I'm like, what is this Mickey Mouse?
Yes, indeed.
And I don't mean it like that, because I met some really sharp people. I was there.
Absolutely.
I met some not so sharp people there as well. Let's be blunt.
I agree.
And I was just amazed, and the real thing though, man, is the maturity level is kind of what carried me through a whole lot of this stuff, man. Because to be honest with you, man, after you go to the active duty military, you deploy, you go all over the world, and then you have to go to college, and all you got to do is do ROTC a little bit,
Yes, indeed.
and you'll be a lieutenant in no time. All you got to do is come out here and learn how to be a better college student. Oh man, it was money for me.
I totally agree with you. I
You know?
think for me, one of the parts that stood out as well was, I've been Willingboro High School. We've been the best track team in the nation. What we would say, definitely in the state. Come out of that, go infantry. I'm like, that's the best of the Army. Everybody exists in the Army because of the infantry. So I'm getting down like I'm the best of the best. I go to the old guard. It's the elitist unit. We official escorted. So this element of always wanting to be the best and being associated with the best. When I came in ROTC, my first thing was, like, I don't know what this black school is, but, they had this special unit called a Ranger Challenge. They had a little platoon, and they were like Rangers in ROTC. And they had a competition on an annual basis. And I said, well, where we normally find ourselves at the end of the competition? We second to last or in the last 5. And I said, no, we got to win this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how y'all training? I was like, let me train y'all.
Yeah.
And we figured out, they're like, no, you're a freshman. You can't do that. I was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, but you an infantryman.
Exactly.
A good one.
But I knew how to do certain things. You had to do air assault. You got to know how to do knots and ties and Swiss seats and everything else. When they got an opportunity to see, I think as a sophomore, I was running. I was doing all of the training for all Ranger Challenge. And then to the point where I said, like, we can't even work with the regular RTC anymore. We got to go do our own thing. We'll do PT twice if that's what y'all want.
Yeah. We
just going to go out here and train because we got to win this.
And I think what's worthy, what I love most about you, man. Obviously, you my friend, man. But what I love most about you, man, you are very. I'm gonna put this nicely. You're a very charismatic person. You have a way of controlling the action, right? So I get to ROTC, and for you guys who don't know this, I get to school, right, and I'm 26. I was 26 when I got to college. And relatively speaking, these dudes are a lot younger than me.
Absolutely.
And you basically said, all right, look, man, you with me, you gonna help me do this thing. And that's that. Cause you're mature, you've been around the block. I need
some. Was E7. I need the E7 list. I'm like, I'm gonna let you slide on this.
And I'm still young by
yes, indeed.
By Army standards, I'm still a young dude, right? So you said, all right, man, you with me, and this is what we doing. So whatever you did,
absolutely,
I wasn't like following you around, but every time you needed me to help you do something, I'm there.
You without a doubt.
We did all the ceremonies. We did all of any type of detail that needed to happen, because I saw early that they leaned on you heavy, because it's hard to find reliable people. Just be what it is, man.
I agree.
And you made me, you coerced me into doing everything with you. You know what I'm saying? One thing that never happened though is you had already been in the game before I got there, right? So you pledged a fraternity.
I did
before I got to school. I think this was the semester before I got there. I was a junior.
Yes.
I was a junior when I met you.
Exactly. So right. I pledged spring 96. You got there fall 97.
Right, correct.
Yes,
indeed. Yeah. So I know how it go, but was that the most challenging thing you ever did? Or you think all of the rough and tumble stuff you did before that prepared you to be to complete the process to become a signal man?
I think, like you said, a lot of it is mentality. It's just how you built.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I got some different elements to me. And when it came time to pledge, so prior to becoming a Sigma, I was looking at all the different fraternities, and we had the Iota Phi Theta coming down. I had knew of them being in New Jersey and heard of them, and there was some people down there that was pledging up North Jersey, came down, was looking to start the chapter down there as they were starting to grow, and they were talking with me and trying to recruit me. Like, this is something you should do. But I didn't know who they were, and I was really interested in learning more about all the fraternities. and understanding what's their identity. And what happened with Sigma was, I had a very small population. We were the smallest fraternity. Iotas wasn't on the campus. So we were the smallest fraternity size-wise. But to me, they were some of the most thoroughest dudes that I knew.
That's an
And
understatement.
and so they were
man.
they were one of the guys, the biggest representative ended up being my dean, Pat Mack, and Big Brother Brainwash, and just seeing him and how he carried and the respect level he has, and they didn't have a set identity or stereotype. So Sigmas to me was one that I saw I could be me going to the organization. They were not looking to make me a man. That never was the language that I heard in some other different conversations when people were trying to recruit me. It says, we here to make you a better man.
Yeah.
And
I've heard you say that 100 times.
Absolutely.
I ain't even in a fraternity, but
Yes.
I mean, I've been with you been around you so long.
Without a doubt, you was there.
Yeah.
You done seen some people come through and do some things.
Yeah, now they millionaires.
Yes, indeed. Multi-millionaires.
Yeah.
National heroes.
Yeah.
And
So you become and I'm gonna say this, man, and like I a lot of your frat brothers, I'm really cool with them, man.
Absolutely.
They're good
Everybody
dudes,
knows Jay
man.
Marvel.
They're good dudes, man.
Everybody know DJ Marvel.
I think your character speaks to it though, because even though I'm not, because that's one thing I never liked about college fraternity life, how they it's a human thing, right?
Absolutely.
If you are a certain character and then you pledge a fraternity, you probably still got those same character traits. So
Absolutely.
some of these guys that pledge, they become sort of quote unquote elitist, and they like, we're over here and the rest of y'all clowns are over there. Y'all never acted like that, and you never fronted on me to your frat brothers.
No.
Like I ain't need you to run the interference for me, but if one of them says something slick to me, I can handle myself. But you jump right in like, hey, hold on, that's my man, and that's that.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Because that's real brotherhood.
And that's what it's supposed to be. I mean, we talking about fraternities to be about a brotherhood and building a culture and increasing brotherhood and celebrating brotherhood in a way. And we got to realize that whether you part of a family but you still a brother, we got to make sure that we protecting each other and looking out for one another. Yeah. And again, I think the occurrences, people didn't know who you were and they didn't know how you were situated until we said, nah, I put my name on him.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, won't he come through? Because he don't want to come through. And he don't need to have to come through, because that doesn't change. Right. He's still my man, and I'm still going to run with him. I'm still going to ride with him.
No doubt.
And that they respect it. That's how the Sigmas were on the yard, and that's how we were. And that's
I got fond memories of them dudes, man. No,
yes.
Man, they
DJ, because you was winning the DJ contest we was doing.
Hey, we was in college, and Worthy was my roommate was one of the judges on in the talent show, and I was DJing in the talent show as my talent, right? And somehow I got perfect score, and somehow I won the money from the talent show, and we went to Hooters and ate the money.
Hooters. That's where it at.
Hey, look, you know what people don't realize, Worthy, man? We in college, ain't nobody got no money.
Yes,
the only people got any money is us.
Yes, indeed.
And only because I didn't work. Did you ever have a job in school?
I did have a job my freshman year. I worked for, what was that, Spartan, the security thing.
Okay, yeah, right,
I did that gate guard. But
did you get money, or did they knock some off your tuition? How they carry that?
It might have knocked off my tuition.
Yeah.
I was on scholarship, so I did it. It worked its way back to me.
Yeah.
I think in a refund check.
So we college students. We have ROTC scholarships. They got a little money for that. We were ex-soldiers, so we had GI Bill, and I think you had an Army College Fund because you had one of them crazy MOSs. So we had some money.
Yes, indeed.
I mean, I had a wife and kids, though, so I really didn't have a whole lot of extra money.
Absolutely.
But I did have a car. I was grown, and I just go home every weekend, so I didn't really spend a lot of money.
Yes.
And I was really there to study anyway. I was there to get good grades and get out of there.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
2-year plan.
Yeah, man. I got to get out of here. But yeah, man, we could talk about this stuff all night, man.
All night.
But real quick, all right. So we got to compress some of the rest of this.
Okay.
But
let's go.
So you go to ROTC. You obviously excel, because the reason why I know this dude excelled is because I took my nephew to interview to be an ROTC cadet, and I took him to Norfolk State. And he walked in there. I said, "Look, that's my man. His name, your name is still in the trophy case in the university where your kids went to school and got commissioned from too."
Absolutely.
So I know they probably like, damn, Dad was the man.
Man, you know, I'm gonna say this. I say this, and this is not cliche. It's not trying to take something, lead somebody down a certain direction, but it's my actual heart to the fullest. And God just looked at me. I was gifted. I had gifts that I didn't even fully understand, and God looked out for me because even on ROTC, I went on a green and gold scholarship. I went there to study business.
Mm-hmm.
I was a business major. Went there taking classes at an accelerated rate because I could handle that capacity, and got in after my first year and realized I want to do this business stuff. This business doesn't excite me. I like education.
Right.
I want to do early child education. Well, the way the scholarship was built, you had to go to that command, and I had to get permission to change my major.
Yeah.
And if they gave you permission, then they would let you change it. And the idea was you would change it and you get 4 years to complete it. Well, they approved me to change it, but they said, no, you only gonna get 3 years. Changed my major, got approved. They didn't think it would get approved because education doesn't align with going in the Army. But they approved me to go to early child education, but they said you still only got 3 years. And in early child education, you got to do a student teaching. So you got to do all the coursework and then be situated so you get a whole semester dedicated to nothing but student teaching. And so I had to make it happen. So I was taking 24 and 27 credit hours a semester. And again,
which is not easy.
Not easy. I mean, average student's taking 12, so I'm taking double their load. And
I never got to. I definitely always took 12, but I definitely didn't take 27 credits.
Yes, indeed.
The most I think I took. I think I reached 20 once.
Okay.
Because I'm getting out of there.
Yes, indeed.
I had to go.
Yes, indeed.
But go ahead.
And so did it, and was able to excel. I mean, I was still able to maintain honors and maintain a high GPA because I was working and living in my passion. And so it was energizing to me. So people like, how you do it? You don't get tired, you staying out, you going to the party still, you still doing this, you still doing that. And because I was living in passion, so I was getting fueled by that. And I didn't have time to be tired. How can I be tired doing something I love? Yeah. And it just gave me a great opportunity. And then our ROTC program really gave us flexibility because you got to remember, we was in ROTC. We started a partnership and education program with that elementary school.
Yeah.
ROTC.
Yep.
Like we students.
Yeah.
And we started a program and we convinced all of these ROTC people this is valuable to pour back into these young people in the community because it's a pipeline to help you understand. That's how we was thinking in college and thinking about giving back to the community. And they said, yeah, that's a great idea. and again, we were just, man, I think what I always appreciated about you and where I saw the connection was, man, we cared about our people.
Yeah. And
we said, you know what? It's good that we here, but we just open the door, kick in the door, wait a 4-4. All you want to say is, Papa, don't hit him no more. But whatever it may be, is that we saw that we were not looking to be elitists. We're not looking. We want to get in here and blow the door off and let the whole family. We want everybody from the deepest, darkest parts of the hood. Everybody eat. Everybody in here, everybody understanding that you can do this and we can get it together because whatever you short, we're going to help build you up.
I remember we sat in the back of the class one day. We were in some class we were taking together, and I remember we said, we agreed. We said, man, you know what? We're going to get out here and we're going to make our mark on the world, and we're going to let kids behind us see that they can do what we're doing.
Critical thinking was that course.
Yeah. You remember that.
It was the critical thinking. Sitting in the back of the classroom, exactly.
Yeah. All right, so you get to graduation time.
Absolutely.
All right. For one, you graduate with honors. You got the same sash that I had on my uniform when I graduated. Well, I'm saying that not to brag, man. I'm saying that because, quote unquote, ghetto kids.
Absolutely.
Guidance counselor telling them all the wrong things.
Absolutely.
And we expected to be not necessarily fail, but nobody really expecting a whole lot of output from these cats.
Not at all.
You know what I'm saying?
And especially once you went to the poor man's route, as some people would say, because you join the Army as enlisted. That's where the poor people do. That's where those that don't have access to privilege, that's where they go to try to do something decent with their life.
And not to mention, I heard all of the stereotypes about you going to Norfolk. I mean, I even hear now. You went to Norfolk State. Who does that?
Who want it?
Who want to go to Who wants to go to the school in the ghetto like that?
Who want it?
Man, I had a great time there, man, and it was nothing like people made it out to be.
You know, we've sat and had debates with people that went to Ivy League schools, and they come up short.
Yeah,
And
very
you
short.
know, in service as an officer, we battled and competed. Well, they competed with us. We just stayed focused to the commitment, and they couldn't keep pace. So again, it's not as much, and I'm not taking away from those that actually, and I recognize the level of professionalism and the access to academic standards and some of the professionals they have access to. But what I'm saying is my experience gave me access to same credential that just wasn't different, or a high level of commitment to seeing me succeed, because they were pouring in, teaching me things I didn't even understand and know about myself, but was essential for me to be able to live with the peace that I needed to be able to go and pursue my purpose.
That's right. So in the essence of, and respect the time, right?
Yes, indeed.
We're going to skip the whole military part, except for the fact that you got commissioned as a medical service officer. The infantry guy became a medical service officer. If you didn't know anything about the Army, you know the how diametrically opposed those two things are. But there's some similarities that help you become a great military service, medical service officer. You went to combat a couple times.
Absolutely.
You did all the hard stuff. You ended up, and we're going to get to the to what actually became of you. But what I wanted to allude to before we close and kind of sum this thing up, because there's a big deal that occurred throughout all of this, right? But the main thing I want to all of this stuff that we talk about, the stereotypes of us failing, not expecting much. You're now a doctor.
Yeah. God is amazing, right?
You know what I'm saying? And I'm a doctor.
Yes, indeed.
So
Dr. DJ Marvelous. It hit the deck entertainment. When we popped the trunk, it hit the deck.
So, look, by the way, this dude right here, I've been telling y'all for years, this is the guy that named us Hit the Deck Entertainment.
When we popped the trunk.
But yeah, Worthy, I know you know that it's kind of wild that we've come this far, because
Absolutely.
we kind of talk about it sometimes, right? And we're going to write a book about it.
Yeah, we're supposed to be writing the book 3 the Hard Way.
Yeah.
That's the name of the book. So, people could take the title, you still can't write our book.
That's
so I don't even get caught up with people like, oh, don't give them everything. You can take that, but you still can't complete the work. But 3 the Hard Way.
We missing the third person, though.
So I think it's dual-headed. The third person, Tiffany, my wife, is not with us on the interview yet, but it speaks to us three. We met in Korea and grew and built from there. But then also when you think about it, when you see your graduation robe, it got 3 stripes.
Right.
And so 3 the Hard Way. So it speaks to that journey of how do we came through so many similar situations from different geographical locations. PG County, Orange County, Willingboro, the East Orange of Willingboro, and I claim Willingboro, not to disrespect anybody that you may know me or grew up in East Orange, but again, I went into the Army with Willingboro on my name, and that's how they associated with me. And Willingboro was life-changing for me. It saved my life. I will agree with my mother. Had I not gone, I don't know what the total outcome, but I know I would have been outside of the plan that God had for me, and it wasn't healthy for me. Mm-hmm. It wasn't going to be healthy because I like the action, and I'm going to be there. Yeah.
So just before we get to the last piece, so you also have two children.
3.
I'm sorry, Chloe. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
Look,
but we were talking about college.
On the twins.
Chloe is not in college yet,
yes,
so we'll talk about her in a minute. But you had 2 kids,
absolutely,
who are now commissioned officers.
Absolutely,
correct.
Set of paternal twins.
Just give me a quick rundown of what their situation is.
So Taja, I shouldn't say Taja. Tasia. So my firstborn is Taj Amir, and then Tasia Imani. And, you and I talked about those names, and Taj Amir means crown prince, and Tasia Imani means princess faith. Mm-hmm. And you look at in Arabic, And that was important to us to speak a language and understand our roots and what it traces back to. So they grew up. God blessed me to be able to recover a relationship that may not have been as strong in the beginning, to be able to develop and grow and be there for them and sow into their life. They never did ROTC in high school. Decided when my son was going to college, as soon as they graduated high school, he says, Dad, his senior year, I want to get an ROTC scholarship. I'm like, what? You ain't even did anything. And he says, well, I want to try to see if I can get it. So I helped him join in with that. End up, he wanted to go to Norfolk State. Norfolk State, so when he competed, he didn't win a national scholarship, but Norfolk State ended up giving him a room and board scholarship if he decided to go there. They said, we'll give you room and board. You just have to worry about tuition. Interesting, and we said the 6 degrees of separation. Find out that the PMS at that time had went to and graduated from Tiffany with Tiffany from West Point. And
I didn't know that.
Lieutenant Colonel Lee. And so he gave him an opportunity because Lieutenant Colonel Lee also recognized that my name was on the board and I had a history, and there was some opportunity to look at connections. So my son went to Norfolk State purely on room and board scholarship, but he connected with ROTC. Never did JROTC in high school, and by his sophomore year, he got a full scholarship. And so tuition, room and board, and everything. Tasia, when she graduated, says, Dad, I need a break. I'm not ready to go to school. So he says, you got to do something to keep you focused and engaged during this 1 year. So she decided to join the reserves. She went in, she joined, scored high on the ASVAB, went to become a preventive medicine specialist in the Army, went to the Army Medical Department, completed a basic training, AIT. By the time she completed all of that, it came time for her to come back home. She started her freshman year at Norfolk State, and when Taj was a sophomore. So both of them went, paid for through scholarships and programming. School was paid for. Taj graduated, and he also became a Sigma. I can't leave that out. To the mighty DZ, Delta Zeta chapter, Phi Beta Sigma Incorporated, and Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Let me get that right. But Delta Zeta chapter, he came through. So he graduated, got commissioned as an armor officer, graduated, went to basic course, also got married prior to graduation. Him and his wife got married, both ROTC graduates from the mighty Spartan Battalion.
Yes, indeed.
And went into the military, active duty. So he got their commission, and he went on to become an armor officer. He's currently stationed, him and his wife, in Hawaii. He's a lieutenant platoon leader and a scout. So he got scout. So
he the real deal.
He real deal.
He real soldier.
He real soldier.
He G.I. Joe going around testing equipment for the Army.
Absolutely. He's showing up like who want it. Who want to know what his survival rate on the battlefield is and say, you know what, we gonna do what we need to.
He was a quiet kid. Is he still real quiet, or what do you think?
He's quiet unless you disrespect him.
Oh, okay.
Or if you start getting too loud, then he knows how to elevate to go on and turn up. And so he excelled. He got his undergraduate degree in sociology. He has a connection, and I'm going to share why I said that. And then Tasia graduated last year, became an ordnance officer, in December of last year. Became an ordnance officer, completed basic course. She's now at Fort Cavazos, which was the former Fort Hood, and getting ready at her first duty station, excelling. I say this to not because of me, but just the graciousness of God. So she's young. I'm not giving you my children's age. Yeah, she's young. She at her first duty station, she bought a house. Not no used house. They built this house.
Right.
So but being in tune, financial management,
right,
listening to guidance from the people that were pouring into her, situated herself so she had a plan, had the money, the investments to be able to cover the deposits and make the decisions to furnish it. So, she got a house with furniture. It ain't just faking. Like, she got a house, but there's no furniture. She got furniture, nice furniture. So she was blessed that way and was able to graduate and really starting to do well and is going forward in her military career for however long she decides to do it. Taj is, again, committed. He's about to work on his master's degree. So he's already been accepted in the program.
Man, this is
He-
unbelievable. man.
he's
And
accepted in
I
the
don't know.
program.
Believe it or not, I don't own, folks. I don't know all of these stories, man. This is a good thing, man.
Yes,
This dude's
indeed.
so busy, I can't really. I don't get a chance to talk. We don't talk as much as we used to, but it's
That's
just
true.
like brothers, man. No matter what, no matter how
Without
much
a doubt.
time is between. So before we close, man, tell me who Chloe is.
Chloe is the dawn. That's the culmination of all the experiences that we have. That's my youngest daughter, and she's a superstar. We talk about, so she's a sophomore in high school. She's just a phenomenally gifted person who understands her purpose and connected with her purpose early on. She gets the benefit from all of our family members, but that immediate family we like to call team worthy, being Tiffany, myself, Chloe, Taj, and Tasia. We all pour, and she gets to see and have that experience. So she's excelling. She's a phenomenal woman. She believes in God. She trusts God. She has a in-depth personal relationship with her. And when I say she excels, so again, I shared that I was decent in track.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just shared with her. She just went to an award ceremony last month where she earned her first varsity letters as a sophomore.
Oh,
So
I
she
didn't
got a
know
varsity letter in cheerleading. She was on a varsity
Mhm.
team and in soccer.
Oh, I
So
didn't
here's
know
a
that.
black girl playing soccer.
Yeah.
And after taking a break from soccer, she played it when she was younger, took a multi-year break, several-year break, went back to it, and was able to play and excel on the varsity team. Sophomore, I said to her, that's history making for our family. There is not anyone that I'm aware of that earned varsity letters as a sophomore. You're the first one to ever do it.
Mhm.
So she sat there. She's focusing on looking at where she wants to pursue her academic pursuits. And, she was looking at neuroscience and studied and knew that in great detail. Now she's looking at education and saying, is that the course where God wants to lead? So she's committed to that. She's a active dancer in the community. She's part of a Faith in Action group that does performances. She's a lead. Whenever she performs, she's usually the lead dancer or one of the lead characters. So she participates in these theatrical performances. She's also a part of the youth council in my community in Willingboro. She serves as the vice president of the youth council, which with adults is sitting there. She's making decisions. She's leading that. She serves as the president of her class, of a sophomore class. And
Y'all the most.
high school.
Y'all got the most going on in any family that I know, man.
She's gifted, man. I just say she's gifted like Taj and Tasia, and again, she's living into the full. And she's been traveled. She's traveled. She's been to Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
She's been to the UK
Mm-hmm.
performing.
Right.
She's getting ready to go back to Ghana again this summer. So I mean, this is a young black girl.
Yeah, she's living it.
Yes,
living the
indeed,
dream.
living it. Born on a military base, Fort Andrews Air Force Base in Maryland.
Yeah.
As they say around here, Maryland.
Maryland.
That's how them people, them DC Bammers, as you said, in PG County. But no, it's just, again, Chloe's the youngest. She's such a phenomenal young lady. And we're blessed that God entrusted us to be able to steward her development and steward the gifts that she has in it and to help cultivate them. And so that is, we are committed to that work and seeing where she goes and where she decides to go pursue her academic pursuits to become whatever it is God is calling her to pursue academically. And we're ready to support her.
So anyway, man, before we close, right?
Yes, indeed.
We got to get to the most important part of this whole thing.
Let's
right?
go.
Folks, I've told everybody that I care about my life, this story, right? I said, I sum it up by saying this. Lamont Moore, my boy, told me, he said, man, you've been talking about this dude for years. I finally got a chance to hang out with him, man. Everything you said is true. This dude right here on this camera with this green, black, and white dashiki on, man.
With the matching sneakers.
With the matching Adidas, man.
All day.
Was the wildest dude in the room all the time. And probably because I knew you so much, though, I never once was really, I worried about you, but I never thought like, man, he all right. That's my man. He good.
Yeah.
Trust me, he's
No, you
good.
did.
And because I knew that you were, I always knew from when we used to go to church in Korea, I knew that we were both, but I knew for sure you were on a quest to find God, to seek
Amen.
a closer relationship with God.
Without a doubt.
So at some point, can you kind of elaborate on this, man? Because this is important that I really I want the listener and the viewers to kind of to see how it happened for you.
Yeah, so for me, I think it was critical. I think I always had a pulling and a longing for God. For me, when I was ready to go into the Army, so when I was ready to go into the Army, I was 17. I couldn't go into the Army without my mother's signature. Mother, again, I said a mother and a stepfather, so my mother had to sign for me. Didn't know where my father was, didn't know where what he was doing. I knew his name and all of that stuff. And so my mother wouldn't sign the paperwork. So I couldn't go in. And I was sitting and I remember recruiter kept coming to the house. Like, is your mama gonna sign? Like, nah, she right here. She's not gonna sign it. And then it got to one time, and then that was around Desert Storm. So Desert Storm was looking at and had started, and everybody was like, everybody's going to war.
When was your mother born?
50 in the 50s.
Okay, so the point is, right, your mother lived, she didn't remember Korea, but she lived through Vietnam. So she's probably petrified her son joining the military. Or it's probably on her mind in some form of fashion.
So my mother was again, young mother twice.
Right.
And at a young age, and I'll say in the teenage years. So again, when we looked, and she invested in it. She made a lot of sacrifices. She grind and sacrificed so much for me and my brother. And so I think she had a definitely concern of what she knew to be the military. You're gonna go there when there's a war. People don't come back.
Right.
And growing up in down south in South Carolina, she definitely had brothers and different family members that knew the stories and shared the stories. And so she knew that, and she was very aware of all of that. And so at that moment in time, when the recruiter says was on his way over, we're sitting there. He was sitting in the living room, and he's like, is your mother going to sign? So my mother's situation was, why you want to join the Army? The war. And what God, the Holy Spirit said to me at that time was, look, if God can keep me safe in East Orange, New Jersey, and then bring me down here to Willingboro and still keep me safe,
right,
how can he not protect me in the Army? And I said that. I don't know, at that time I didn't fully understand the Holy Spirit and how God moved, but it came to me. I said it, and my mother went back in the back room. 5 minutes later, came out and signed the paperwork. No question, no conversation. And that's how I got into the Army. And so for me, I think it was just a constant quest, trying to figure out where do I fit in, what was God calling me to do. You saw it and you had the insight that I was on a quest, trying to figure out how to balance all of the emotional, the traumas that I had and the things that I observed and my lived experiences, bringing it all together in a way that was doing what God wanted me to, while I wanted to do other things. And like the other opportunities.
Which is the story of all of us, man.
It is.
It's
the constant journey.
Yeah.
And I think that as I just continue to go through and grow and get pulled and start listening to God more and understanding what God was saying for me to do, and I think one of the critical points was in Korea. I think I was really growing stronger and being more connected. And like you said, we were going to church. Then I lost a soldier. So David Lee Manning, I lost that soldier, and on 16 March at 21:53, I had to identify his body. And just to not go into details, I had to identify his body, know that he was lost. And that was probably at 21:53, I identified his body. By the time we were in Korea, I got finished down, and I think Osan identifying the body. It was close to midnight. We took the drive back, got back about 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:30 in the morning. At 5 o'clock, I had to stand before my company. I was a company commander, and tell them that we lost a soldier and be there for them to help them go through it.
Yeah.
And I had a large company, 134 soldiers. And be there. And that was just God showed up in amazing ways.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, I just started pulling closer to God. Just kept fighting to pull closer to God and be better in my relationship with Him. And that was my journey to the point where then we were in the military, separated out of the military, or ETS out of the military, was in Virginia, working for now the Defense Health Agency, going to church and trying to be a usher, a lead usher.
Yeah. So look, you were, and not to leave the jump past the whole military transition, because that's a life changing experience, right?
Absolutely.
You did all that time, and rather than retire, you
Absolutely.
chose to resign and leave the Army.
Yes.
Right. So I don't think people have an appreciation for that. For an officer, it's just not like I just wake up one day and I'm gone. But you woke up and said, man, I gotta, because you had done a lot of stuff though. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. So at that point in time, I had about 12 years, going on 12 and a half years.
Yeah.
And so that's a critical point. Everybody, you locked in at that point. And for me, what happened was came back from Iraq.
Yeah, can you run down the time you were away from the United States real quick?
Exactly. So in 98, graduated college in 98, May of 98, and October of 98 was in Korea. Children born in the later part of October 98. Did the year there, came back to the States, went back to Fort Bragg, was at Fort Bragg. When I was at Fort Bragg, we got the mission. We had to start training up to Bosnia. So did all of the train ups to Bosnia, going all that time, then went to Bosnia. I went to Bosnia in 2001 to 2002. Left Bosnia because while I was in Bosnia, God bless, God just continued to show up. I got selected for company command prior to me knowing I was selected for captain. Everybody say if you got selected, then you know you made the captain list. But I had not got the official results, but I got the phone call that says, do you want to command? No, I hadn't even been to the captain's career course. So they said, but you got to go to captain careers course. And you were going back to the 2ID. So went to the captain career course from Bosnia, came back to Fort Bragg, out process, went back to Korea for 14 months and was in command. Came back out of command.
That's when I came over.
Yes, indeed. Came back out of command, went back to Bragg to a multi-compo unit that was training National Guard and Reserve soldiers to go to Iraq. So you just spent all of this time, TDY, Fort Dix, New Jersey, part of First Army, did that. And while I was doing and serving in that position, I was a medical OCT, a medical officer in charge of an observer controller team. So doing that, evaluating units, got the call that I needed to go on a WIAS, Worldwide Individual Augmentee System, deployment to Iraq. So went to Iraq in 2005, came back in 2006, said, all right, everybody said you're going to get your rotation. It's important that you go and you serve. Now you'll be good for a little bit. Was back in 2006, about February time frame, March. So at the end of January, February, start hearing, they continue the rotations. Needs are going greater. The unit, the task force I was a part, did exceptionally, set some significant historical moments. And then in April, I started getting requests. I was going back to be on a MIT team. And that's where you live with the Iraqis and you train, you live on the base, you eat what they eat.
And you might not make it back.
And you may not make it back. And that's an 18-month deployment.
Right. How long were you in Iraq the first time?
First time was 10 months. And came back. Said they were going to 18 months. I just came back and I was going in December. And at that time I had taken tuition assistance. I worked on my master's, got an MBA, and worked. So I had an obligation to the military. I was working for a 2-star, and I said, "Look, sir, I can't keep going to these deployments." I think at that point in time, I had 9 years as a officer, and out of those 9 years in total, away for 6 years from deployments, training, and
if you you stayed in, it would have even got even worse.
It was absolutely, because every time they kept changing the standard.
Now with these combat stripes on their uniform, God bless them, man. But man, that's a takes I know from my own experience. Now
Yes,
I didn't
indeed.
have all of that combat experience and all of that, but I do know the toll, the mental toll that it will take on you and your family.
Without a doubt.
You might not have none of them left.
No,
You can
you're
be
right.
as faithful as you want, man. Reality is stuff will kind of chip away at you over time.
You spot on, and,
Yeah.
and you don't know the totality
Yeah.
because you have to adapt and you got to survive.
Yeah.
So you're making adjustments and decisions, and you don't know what become your trigger points to be able to set up or cause you to go and relive an experience that was traumatic. I mean, I had some traumatic experiences in Iraq that at times come back and reflect on, and some life or death kind of close situations. And I'm not saying I was in the middle of a battle and I should have got a purple. I'm not saying any of that. Just the life and the environment of war causes different things to happen. So been in the middle when you got attacked. We've been in the middle seeing tracer rounds going, 60s going, and you seeing the rounds. We getting attacked. It is no doubt. So that was deep.
We were in Baghdad. We
Yes,
were
indeed.
outside over by the little helipad. And I was so stressed out about some personal issues. And, for the people that don't know, me and you and your wife, we were in Iraq at the same time.
Absolutely.
And I said, man, Worthy, man, I need you to bring me some 9mm rounds, man. I'm so stressed out about something I got going on at home. I left my ammo down at in the barracks before, and I got to go down to the green zone.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I say, what if the helicopter crashed? Or what if something happened and I ain't got no ammo?
Yes, indeed.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's the kind of weird stuff that's going on in these environments, man. And, I think I'm a pretty stable guy.
Absolutely.
But I know I had some deficiencies, man. And over time, that stuff just you get more and more debilitated by all of this stress. Even if it's indirect stress, it's a mounting type of thing. But anyway, man, my fault.
No,
I
you're
hijacked
good.
it. I hijacked it.
That happened, and so I went to the general and says, "Sir, I can't. I can't continue to go this." And I always said that when I couldn't do it no more and I wasn't able to answer the call, I was going to get out. And so he says, I can get you out of that. And I said, I know, sir, but my commitment was
that ain't how we do.
I got to play the stand. Either I'm going to be all in, and I'm not going to try to level myself to get out of rotations when it's my turn. It's my turn.
Right.
But the Army's and what they asking me for a pace to go deploy, I can't live the pace. That is not going to work for me and my family. So he says, go talk with your wife, see what she says. If she says yes, come back and I need your paperwork by the end of the week. I said, sir, I got to add so because I took tuition assistance. Add so means an active duty service obligation. He says, bring your paper to me by Friday. Brought him my paperwork. Everybody like, it's not going to get approved. You got all of these different factors. At that time, I was part of a high-speed unit that was a appointment that was very sought after and working on primary staff, Secretary of Defense, staff ID badge, and all of the glamour that comes along with that. And God moved again. And when nobody thought it was going to get approved, they approved me and separated, and I was out in July. And the benefit, so the blessing of getting out in July, then as I was transitioning out, the SES, Miss Jean Stork, another all-star, looked out and went to the general and says, look, we can't lose him. We're going to convert his military job to a civilian job, and we want to give it to him. Will you approve it? And
you basically was still in the Army without wearing a uniform.
Yes, indeed. And that's what happened. So separated in July, August came back into the federal government and got an opportunity to get appointed and then been with the federal government since. And working in multiple agencies. But that was my story. That was a critical point about going on 12 and a half years and separating. Not sure what was going to happen, but God made a way, and he positioned me so that I was able to provide for my family.
So you alluded to it real quick, right? You got an MBA.
Yes, indeed.
And then I said, man, you're out of control. So you go back to school and get another master's degree.
I got a master's in divinity. So again, separated in the military, 2007, moved to, as a civilian, moved to Jersey in 2012, And right around 2013, I helped God says, look, it's time to stop playing with me. You need to go to school. I mean, you went to, and your civilian experience and all that to make sure you was proficient. You went to school and you got this master's degree. I need you to go get one for me. I'm like, you don't even need that to get ordained, to get licensed. He's like, I ain't ask you what you need. I need you to go do this. I like that. That's 3 years. That's 3.5 years solid. That's not a regular 2-year master's degree or 18 months. That's 3.5 years. He says, I
I
wasn't
wasn't
to go get
studying
that.
with you, but I remember.
Yes, indeed. And so I signed. They again proved my packet to go and went and got a master's of divinity, and started in 2014 and graduated in 2017 with my master's in divinity.
And it's still, you still wanted more, or you were still directed or still called for
Yes,
more.
indeed.
So what happened after that?
So again, God bless. So graduated, excelled in a program. I was in a program focused on urban ministry, which you can probably tell where I live at, and focused urban ministry and the idea of missional theology, the mission of God, and God's got a mission that He calls us to participate in. And so at graduating, as I was going, the dean of the seminary came out and reached out to me and said, hey, have you ever talked about a doctoral program? I'm like, sir, I'm done. I ain't got no time for that. And it was interesting. So as I was graduating, going into that 2017, my natural father passed 2 months before my graduation. Suddenly, massive heart attack, was, dead before he hit the ground. He passed. I had to go, my brother and sister that I'd met in the last 5 or 6 years, cultivating a relationship with, and had to go see him and assist him and taking care of him, even to the point to do his eulogy for his funeral, and then still had to complete coursework in order to graduate, because they said, we'll give you a waiver and you come back next semester and you can finish the program, because we got suspense dates. You got to have this your senior project, your final project turned in. I was like, no, so I'm gonna get my work done. And so he blessed me to do that. But then the dean reached out and says, have you considered it? I said, sir, that's not my mind. It says, well, look, generally you would complete a master's of divinity. There's a 3-year gap. They don't allow you to go on a doctoral program for 3 years because they want to see you exercise and applying your knowledge attained in the field and seeing how you serve in ministry. He says, but, we are accredited school, Association for Theological Schools, national certification. It's the standard. And he says, we can give a waiver, just a small population. I will give you a waiver if you go join the doctoral program. So you don't have to wait 3 years. You can go consecutively. I never heard of that, never knew what that was. And I said, okay. And he says, I just see something in you. And I said, all right, talk with the family, and we kept going. So took the fall semester off, started in 18, graduated in 21 with my doctor of ministry. So
you're the hardest working man and that I know. I'm telling you,
it was the grace of God. So you think about that. That's a 7-year journey. I share this. I changed jobs 7 times during that journey.
Man,
7 different jobs at the same time, all in the federal government. So you can just imagine.
People don't understand. You're not one of those people. Like, I had classmates. They were in a doctoral program with me. They didn't work.
Absolutely.
That's one thing. But you actually had like a real couple challenging jobs in the middle of all of that.
Without a doubt. I mean,
assistant regional administrator.
Go ahead. Assistant regional administrator for OSHA. I was a director. I was a branch chief administrative services branch for another organization, and was the director of strategic planning and workforce development for a multifunctional aid providing agency. So these are real jobs that we're sitting there looking at and high demands. And these are senior levels. These not GS7 positions. These are the double-digit grade level positions in the senior scales.
It's demanding.
Yes, indeed.
And not to mention, you have some You have a couple side gigs that you're doing. These are not side gigs either, man. This dude is he's in the NFL, far as I'm concerned.
Nah, you're right. So I was blessed. I served was elected to serve on the Board of Education while on this 7-year MAP plan.
Board of
Served
Education,
Board
where?
in Willingboro. Went back home. God called me to serve and give back to somebody that made such a significant difference in my life. So served on the Board of Education for 3 years, close to 3 years. One of those years when the pandemic hit, I was the actual president of the Board of Education. And again, just the handwork of God, the fingerprint of God. While I was the president of the Board of Education, my wife was the mayor of the township.
Oh, we gonna get to her next when she comes.
Yes,
when y'all come back, she'll get her whole hour by herself.
Both at critical points and in critical positions, helping lead our community through a pandemic at that time. So did that for 3 years. Also in 2016, God called me before graduating to plant a church in Willingboro, New Jersey. Called the Boro Church. We planted the church and lived, and I served as the lead pastor. And then still serve as the lead pastor. What else did I do? And so, even now, I'm on a board of directors for the Habitat for Humanity South Central New Jersey chapter. Mm-hmm. I'm on the Broward County Youth Association board member, appointed for that, and still serving. I also serve as a chaplain for the Willingboro Police Department. Yeah. I serve as a chaplain in the Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 4914 in Willingboro, New Jersey.
Your bio is about 20 pages long, man. And look, and again,
blessed.
we're not saying this to brag, man. We're just saying this because we want you to know that, hey, man, it's more that you can. It's work to do out here, and somebody's got to do it. And that's really what drives us in a lot of ways. You know what I'm saying? You're not doing this for personal
absolutely
benefit. Not. You're doing this because this is the thing that we talked about in the back of the class. We're gonna make this world better for our people.
That it is. So if everybody know me, I only wear Adidas. That's my shoe. Mm-hmm. I got another shoe, a black shoe, made actively black, that I got a pair of them because I want to support black business and large scale in that. But I only wear Adidas, and I say it all the time. Adidas stands for all day I dream about serving.
Right.
And then my middle initial is S.
Yeah.
I tell people that S stands for service. That's mm-hmm. who God called me to be. That's how He gifted me. And again, if I can't give back to my people and see my people get far greater accomplishments, to get farther along in their career quicker than I did, then I ain't served right. I didn't pass right. I didn't run it the strong as I should have. But I'm ready to run my race, to contribute to what I need to make sure that the generations that come after us, my community is better than when I touched it and when I came in contact mm-hmm. with it. I think that's the Kwanzaa principle, Kaumba, to mm-hmm. find a community and make it better than when we came in mm-hmm. contact with it. That's my essence to the fullness of how can I give back to make my people, make the people I'm in relationship with, how can I contribute to their life to get them focused to live according to their God-gifted purpose, and realize it ain't gotta look as similar to anybody else's journey. It may look like it's too late. It may look like it's too great, but it's never too late. It's never too great. As long as you move when God says it's time to move, and you fight through the struggle, because it ain't going to be easy. Mm-hmm. But just knowing that you're equipped for it. If God called you to it, He built you for it. And so all your years of saying no to Him, all your years of running from Him, it was because of God's preparation. So He prepares us, then He positions us. And then once we've been positioned, He promotes us. But it's not promotion from the idea of just moving us up mm-hmm. to give us a greater platform to talk about how good He is mm-hmm. and how much he looked out for fools like me, how much He looked out for wild people that says, look, if God can do all of this for me, look, you simple. Yeah. You ain't even that complex.
People be like, where are these pastor now?
Yes, indeed.
No, man.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even share it. Yeah, so pastor and an adjunct professor. So I teach that. I've taught and been blessed to teach a class at this seminary.
The same school you went to?
Same school I graduated from. Taught a class.
The same school that you were like, man, this dude working me right
yes,
here.
Indeed.
Man.
Post-Christian is evangelism in a post-Christian culture. That's where I resonate with. That's my language and speech space.
Look, we've been talking an hour and 52 minutes, and I could do this all night, but I just got to ask 2 more questions before we close, man.
And I won't go long. My wife said it. I get carried away. I start talking 5 minutes and don't know it's 5 minutes. But I just, man, God's been awesome and amazing to me.
And I believe
you
every
know,
word you say.
You know things we ain't gonna say.
Yeah,
and you seem like you say the grace.
Yeah, no
Nothing
doubt,
but.
no doubt. So look, Worthy. So what is All Things Are Possible? We're gonna talk about All Things Are Possible at length next time, and we'll do that next time when your wife comes, so we can, so we can shoehorn that thing all together. You know, so her accomplishments are probably even more robust than ours.
Yes, indeed.
You know what I'm saying?
So All Things Are Possible Foundation Incorporated is a nonprofit my wife and I started and founded in 2007 when we transitioned out in Maryland. And All Things Are Possible is an organization focused on empowering youth and enhancing our community. And so it's about how do we meet young people early on and restore to them that all things truly are possible. That what you see, that there are Black people that are excelling. There are people that come from communities similar to yours or maybe similar circumstances, single-parent households, and able to overcome every stereotype, every title and negative image that people want to portray about them to be able to do things that some of them are still only talking about or reading about and being able to do it. So that is the nonprofit that God has blessed us. We moved there and relocated it when we did. I moved from Maryland to Willingboro, New Jersey in 2012. God has just been prospering and thriving. So we have a building. It used to be a bank. And so we saw the connection. We bought it. It used to be a bank to say that we are investing in the most precious resource we have is our young people in our community. Right. And so we are pouring into our young people and investing in them. And we're just doing great work. I mean, we got partnerships from the Philadelphia Flyers to partnerships and grant support to other community-based organizations that are focused on giving back out to the community, partnerships and relationships with schools, universities, other nonprofits, just providing an opportunity. I will say we have one of the best fundraisers, which is a Kwanzaa celebration dinner, where we bring in and we black on black on black on black all day long. And we celebrate us. We celebrate our young people, and we provide opportunities to say our culture has a richness that is intentionally trying to be hidden. But once we know it, it's so empowering. That's why they don't want you to connect with it. And this is an opportunity for you to know and understand your culture. So All Things Are Possible Foundation is a drive. My wife is the CEO and chairwoman of the nonprofit. I'm the chief operating officer of the nonprofit. So that is another one of, you say, my gigs, another one of the opportunities I had to serve and give back to my community. Right. That's what All Things Are Possible Foundation is.
You see, that guy got his briefing together. You know, man, seriously, this time as we close, man, I just think it's amazing, man. You got about 15 storylines, man, of stuff we can write movies about. You know,
that is awesome.
Yeah, man, because, when somebody's present, they can see, and you a guy that's always been present, man. You always are very clear of even when we were just wide open, man, you were very clear of who you are and where you want to go, and to be excellent at everything that you did, man. It's rubbing off on your kids. It's rubbing off on your whole family, on your whole tribe. It's rubbing off on the community, man. So I assume one of y'all or both of y'all is probably going to continue to advance this cause politically, maybe, or something. And we'll talk about that later. But man, I'm so proud of you, man, because you my friend, man, and I don't know anybody more accomplished than y'all, man. It's a big deal, man.
More accomplished than us.
Yeah.
Than us. It's us. So again, we the summation of people who've invested in us. We the summation of grace.
I say it all the time,
we the summation of the experiences lived, observed, and shared of people that may have been close to it, took a hard turn that was very hard for them to come back on, but we was able to learn from that and start seeing the patterns, so we are able to apply better methods to mitigate the risk and be able to go forward and live. But we're a summation, man. We again, for a period of our lives, single parent households, my wife and I, And man, PG County, like you say, inner cities are going in, and God just doing phenomenal work in our lives, and then trusting us.
Yeah.
Stewarding, we got these children, man, Taj, Tasia, Chloe, and they far better than me, far more gifted, and without as many mistakes, and caught on and listened to and found their purpose, and connected with that much earlier. And man, God just trusted us with them and with that gift of life and that stewardship, and that can't be minimized for us, and that's where we live.
And we can't take anything away from like, look at the situation, right? Your mother, under the circumstances, man, look at what she produced, man. Y'all came from somewhere. You ain't just
did.
wake up one day and say, all right, man, I'm here, man, I'm kicking butt. You know what I'm saying? Your mother, she's soft spoken, she quiet and all that. But you tell me stories, man. You know what I'm saying?
indeed.
She's very clear of what she expects from you.
Well, she real.
Yeah.
She's real, and again, she'll go all in for anybody. If you
Right.
with her, she's with you. She'll sacrifice her own to give it a pour in. I could think about so many young people she's we may say she fasted for food and didn't get certain things, and maybe ate crackers and some ginger ale for time so she can pour back and help somebody else who was in where she was inside a worse situation or going through a struggle, and she wanted them to have hope. So she's the reflection, again, single parent mother, double mother at in her teenage years. My brother graduated from college. He was the first one to graduate because he went straight. I went into the Army. So she has 2 college graduates, and my brother's a sergeant and serving in the community and making a difference. He has 2 children that he's he's present in their lives and raising them. And my nephew, Javi, just graduated from high school. And,
Man, last time I seen him, he was a little boy.
Little boy, exactly. He just graduated. And my niece, her and Chloe are the same age. So they're both of them sophomores, just completed their sophomore years, getting ready to go in their junior years. And they're thriving, doing well. And so, again, we are blessed. My mother, definitely, that's who we ride for. God used to help me motivate and find a commitment to make sure I represent her well and give her and bring a smile to a smile to her face. And I have the benefit of she comes, she worships with us in our service, and our service is different than how we grew up.
Yeah.
She grew up, Church of God in Christ. If some of y'all know that, very Pentecostal. You got to, skirts down to your ankles, and we worship. We connecting with young people. We connecting with people to say, God wants you to come as you are so he can transform you to be who you really are, to take off the mask that some of us been wearing before COVID-19, to find out our true identity and to live out that in the fullness. And we want to connect with you. So, she comes and she celebrates us and encourages me. She encourages me, man. She speaks so much life over me. And I know she's still praying for me. So that is just a phenomenal woman that I ride for.
Yeah, no doubt. When you come back, man, we got to talk about the church. And we got to talk about
We can do that, bro.
We got to talk
Anytime
about
you
your
want.
approach.
I come back tomorrow night. We can chop it up. Again, it'll be late tomorrow night, but you let me know, man. Like you said, bro, you poured out, looked out for me so much, and I appreciate you. You say, hey, you gave me my name, you gave me, man. We were just talking. It's just a reflection of a conversation we had that I remember, and when I look at it and think about who you are. And that's for me. So I say DJ Marvel sometimes. So if you hear it doing this interview, you're like, oh, he don't even know his name. No, it's Marvel because he makes he's a Marvel. He's a living Marvel. But it's also DJ Marvelous because we said when you get on the table, they're like, man, he marvelous. he nice. Can't nobody do another better than him. And we that story built on when we started thinking about what's in DJ Ski. And Blend Masters and some Ron G and some of this idea of perfection of able to blend hip hop and R&B, that's marvelous.
Yeah.
That's a skill. That's just not putting on a record, cutting it off, and saying that's something and forcing beats. And no, you master your craft, and that's who you are. And Hit the Deck is who you are. You talk about go-go music, and we talk about it. I could think of nothing more. And I remember when we had that conversation about Hit the Deck, that because of who you were as a leader and who you were as in your business mindset, that I got an opportunity to see how you live and thrive and your academic pursuits and how you served in ROTC that says, look, this idea that you're gonna have a business when this business get off the ground and started, people can't eat without coming seeing you.
Yeah.
So that hit the deck idea is that, look, when I come on the scene, there's a different standard.
Yeah.
And everybody know if you ain't living to this standard, you're going to have to hit the deck because we on the scene. And that was who you is. You was a man of excellence, a man of standards.
We talked about, now I DJed a long time before I knew you, but
Yes,
my
indeed.
business formulation of the modern formulation of my business, I owe a lot of it to you, man, because a lot of this brainstorming, we did all this together. And I think it probably has some impact
How
on
can
the
you owe
way.
it to me then if we did it together?
Well, you know what I'm saying.
No, I don't.
No, well,
You
put
owe
it this
it
way.
to- you owe it to yourself.
The way we approach business and operations and organizational leadership, we've been building all of this for a long time.
Absolutely.
We just have we using different disciplines. The widget is different. You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? What you're doing is different than what I'm doing, but at the core, it's the same thing because it's process oriented, it's results oriented, and it's about people.
The same thing, I would just say the gifting is the same.
Yeah.
The talents is the same because there's a difference between gifting and talents. It's the instruments are different.
Right. Exactly.
And so remember you taught me that and helping me understand appreciation for sound and go-go and how the drums and how they got to sound versus the tom.
Well, this dude right
and
here,
the cowbell
he's typical
doing
Northerner. I used to tell him, I said, look, you might not like it, man, but I'm going to take you somewhere one day and you're going to see what the similarities in all of this African music really are. So I took him to see Listen and Chuck Brown at the Zanzibar in D.C. And I was like, and you was like, oh man, I can feel the bass thumping in my chest. And I said, it's just African music, man.
That was the first live time because I think, again, my first exposure, which was different, which was significantly different, was coming down here to D.C. in the Old Guard.
Yeah.
Black people was in D.C. So you had to go there and they played and, put me in the water.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. I was like, man, it's crazy. Nobody listened to this go-go music till it came on and you start seeing how the people was dancing. And, I'd be how certain people was dancing. Oh, yeah, I like that. And then, we've talked about this before. Redman. Yeah. Redman was always rocking hard with Virginia and DC go-go. It was like people would say, what's the difference from Jersey and New York? Jersey's like, you good. It don't matter. We ain't getting caught up in some of the stereotypes we hear. People say you got to be from New York for New York people to like you, and then maybe they'll listen to you if you got a New York connection. Jersey's like, if you good, you good. It don't matter if you from across Midwest, you good. We're gonna run with you. Good people is good people, and that's where we landed at.
Man, I know you got work to do, man. So look, man, we're gonna close on that note, man. And I got plenty of material I can deal with here, man. This will be up on YouTube, and you got somebody in front of you. I gotta edit his video, man. And then I get you out there, man.
I'm gonna be back and do some more work and give you some more work to do before it's time.
No doubt, man. Like I said, man, you gotta bring really. To make it real, we need your whole family, man. So that would be kind of cool. Once when y'all ever come through, we'll just do everybody together. But next time, probably just bring your wife, man, and we'll chop it up, man, because we really need to tell her story as well, man. Because this woman is doing all kinds of crazy stuff, man.
She do. I know that she got a greater connection and opportunity with her, and so that's where we at.
And she ain't got no silver spoon in the mouth. She's not. Nobody's giving it to her. She's good.
Not at all.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's what my dissertation was about. My dissertation was. Everybody thinks that it's just about attitudes towards drug criminals, but my thing is trying to find those diamonds in the rough.
Absolutely.
Because we're all diamonds in the rough.
That's it.
Again, to circle back to the beginning, people weren't expecting all of this out of these ghetto kids.
Not at all. Back then, Master P said, back then you ain't, no, that's not Master P. Back then you ain't want me, now I'm hot, they all on me. I said,
that's it, man.
Back me. So look, on the outro, I say this, so we're going to rock, because you from Orange County. So we say V's up, A's down. And that means so much to me, but that means that, we all call it walk and live in victory and authority. So victory and authority is where we at. So VA, you going to rock hard with me, got a good place with me. But we live VA all day, every day, because we built the win.
Yes, indeed. And that's Pastor Carlos Worthy.
To the east, my brother, to the
Yes,
east.
indeed. Look, you see that? The middle.
Exclaim. Who won?
All right, man. That's a wrap.